What happens when two gospel greats, icons whose voices have shaped generations, take the stage together and share an intimate moment so unvarnished and heartfelt that the audience falls silent in shock? Fans are referring to Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans' performance as one of the most impactful gospel moments in recent memory because they created an unforgettable experience. However, what actually took place on that stage, and why is it still a topic of conversation today? What you're about to hear will forever alter your perception of these two gospel heavyweights, so stay with me. Picture yourself in a room with thousands of people. As the music fades and the lights go down, two of the finest gospel singers ever take the stage. With decades of experience in both music and ministry, Shirley CeCe is the first lady of the gospel. CeCe Winans, the most celebrated female gospel performer in history, has touched people's hearts all over the world with her wonderful voice. Nobody anticipated what would happen when these two iconic women stood next to each other. This performance wasn't your typical one. The audience gasped, sobbed, and even stood in amazement of this emotional outpouring. Witnesses report feeling shivers down their spines. Online viewers are still reliving the event, referring to it as a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity. And here's the thing, the backstory will surprise you. We're going to dissect the events of that memorable on-stage encounter between Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans in this video. We'll learn why it was so important, the potent lessons it contained, and the feelings that still reverberate throughout the gospel community. And believe me, you'll see why this moment has been dubbed one of the most poignant in gospel history by the end of this film. This is where things become even more intriguing though. That stage is not where the story ends. The subsequent events sparked days of discussion among fans and revealed information about Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans that most people are unaware of. You must first comprehend the significance of these women's names in gospel music in order to completely comprehend why this on-stage exchange between Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans struck such a chord. The term First Lady of Gospel is frequently used to describe Shirley CeCe. Throughout her more than 60-year career, she has been a strong voice, tenacity, and unshakable trust. Her songs are sermons placed to music, not merely catchy tunes. Shirley CeCe has been a mainstay of evangelical music since her days with the renowned Caravans in the 1960s and her solo career, which included hits like Hold My Mule and He Will Do It Again. She has influenced generations of vocalists with something so stable and fundamental. She is a live example of what it means to uphold gospel tradition, not just an artist. CeCe Winans, a symbol of the new wave of gospel excellence, was standing on the opposite side of that stage. With more than 24 Dove wins, 12 Grammys, and innumerable other accolades, CeCe is regarded as the most accomplished female gospel performer in history. Beyond the accolades, though, her music has a special capacity to unite classic gospel with modern worship. Her popularity transcends both genres and generations, as seen by the fact that songs like Believe for It and Alabaster Box are performed in both churches and arenas. Her voice is frequently characterized as anointed, possessing a purity that brings listeners to tears at first listen. Imagine then two distinct periods of gospel glory. One has its roots in the rich gospel traditions of the church, while the other is forging a way in modern worship and attracting a wide range of audiences on one platform. Just the symbolism is potent. It was similar to witnessing the handshake between the past and present in front of a live crowd. The music wasn't the only thing. It was about handing a torch from one great to another, unity and heritage. The room changed when fans noticed Shirley CeCe leave and stand beside CeCe Winans. You could sense the excitement growing. Knowing that they were going to see something remarkable, people froze, muttered, and took out their phones. Furthermore, none could have foreseen the feelings that would soon surface. This is where it becomes even more profound, though. It was more than just a show. It was an experience of spirituality. What followed had little to do with lyrics and harmonies. Already, the performance night was electrifying. There was a sense of reverence and excitement in the air, the kind of energy that only occurs when gospel fans get together for a rare occasion. Fans believed they had already witnessed the evening's high point as the event progressed. strong solo performances, choirs that raised the roof with their harmonies, and testimonies that made everyone say amen. But then something unexpected happened. The band started playing a gentle, well-known chord progression as the lights darkened a little. Shirley CeCe was outpaced. In celebration of a woman who has dedicated her life to the ministry of music, the audience exploded in ovation. The throng was stirred just by her appearance. People shouted her name, rose up, and clapped. With the grace of someone who has been promoting gospel music for almost 50 years, she stepped to the microphone, smiled modestly, and held up her hand in acknowledgement. However, another spotlight came on before anyone had a chance to return to their seats. Next up was CeCe Winans. The response from the crowd was explosive. Shouts, cheers, and tears. Knowing they had to record this moment, some fans instantly grabbed their phones. Here, two ladies from two generations stood on a single stage in solidarity. Shirley CeCe was the first to start singing as the music grew. Her voice was strong and old, with a certain authority that could make you feel every word in your heart. Every note served as a reminder of the many years she has dedicated to the gospel genre. Her voice was full with emotion and experience. Then CeCe took over. Her smooth, angelic, and pure voice came in like a wave of light. The two voices stood out for their striking difference. Shirley's speech was unvarnished, conventional, and firmly grounded in Christian doctrine. CeCe's, however, was sleek, soaring, and modern all at once. There was no conflict. It was harmony. Something divine was created by the flawless fusion of the old and the new. Something remarkable occurred as they sang. Shirley CeCe appeared to be giving CeCe a spiritual mantle as she extended her hand in what appeared to be affirmation. The music seemed incidental for a moment as CeCe took her hand, as though everyone knew they were seeing something far more significant than a concert. The audience fell silent. It was a holy conversation. Those in the front rows of the crowd reported getting chills. Some had their hands up in devotion, sobbing openly. Even the band members appeared moved and played more subtly, almost taking care not to break the mood. It was not practiced. There was no script. It was worship and connection, pure and unadulterated. Then Top arrived, their voices rising in unison as her powerful delivery undoubtedly pushed CeCe's heavenly sounds soar above. Together, the two produced a sound that emanated an overwhelming presence throughout the room. Later, viewers posted on social media that it seemed as though heaven had just touched the ground. There was a deafening silence after the last note was played. No one moved for a few seconds. The crowd then burst into standing ovations, tears, and applause like a wave. A few yelled praises. Others just shook their heads, stunned by what they had just witnessed. People were seen sobbing, trembling, and embracing on camera. It was more than music. It was a ministry. Here's the problem, though. What really astounded people, and started discussions that are still going strong today, was what transpired following the applause. The energy in the room changed in a way that is hard to describe as the last notes of that memorable duet faded. Indeed, during the performance, the audience cheered, clapped, and yelled. But after the ovation subsided, an odd event occurred. Nobody wanted to leave. They stayed and discussed what they had just seen with strangers. Tears are still being wiped away by some. Conversations were audible in small groups across the theater, people reciting words they recalled, talking about the chills they had, and saying they had just been through one of the most amazing gospel experiences of their lives. Soon after, fans took to social media. Videos, images, and heartfelt testimonials flooded Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Some users described it as a once-in-a-lifetime experience where the past and present of gospel came together in front of us, while others remarked, "I came expecting a concert, but I left with a spiritual awakening." Within hours, Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans related hashtags started to trend in online gospel and Christian groups. At the conclusion of their song, Shirley CeCe was seen gripping CeCe's hand tightly and whispering into her ear in one especially popular video. Fans and lip readers conjectured that she was blessing CeCe, confirming her position as a leader for the upcoming generation of gospel music, even though microphones were unable to clearly capture her words. The mystery and intensity surrounding the moment were only heightened by such conjecture. However, the reaction was not limited to supporters. Leaders in the industry and other musicians also provided feedback. Well-known gospel singers expressed their enthusiasm on social media, stating that the performance alone brought them to tears. The next Sunday, a few pastors and church officials even used the incident as an example for a sermon in which they discussed the value of intergenerational harmony, lessee observance, and the effectiveness of teamwork in ministry. Even mainstream media outlets covered the issue outside of the gospel community. The concert was described in articles as a cultural and spiritual highlight in addition to a musical one. Take a moment to consider that this one performance shattered the barriers and reminded the world of the unrivaled emotional and spiritual power of gospel, a genre that frequently lacks the same level of attention as pop or hip-hop. Then came the more profound, intimate responses. Supporters recounted how that evening helped them deal with bereavement, inspired them to get back in touch with their religion, or even restored their faith. Hearing Shirley and CeCe perform together felt like a gift from heaven to one woman who posted on the internet that she had lost her mother earlier that year, telling her that she wasn't by herself. Another man claimed that after failing to call his estranged father for years, the performance inspired him to do so the following morning. Gospel music in particular has the capacity to transcend mere amusement. It inspires, heals, and restores. This particular instance accomplished just that. Two legends singing on stage wasn't the only thing that happened. It was about God using their voices to give everyone listening consolation, hope, and unity. The tale doesn't stop there though. The events that transpired in the days after the performance provided additional insight into the relationship between CeCe Winans and Shirley Caesar. Fans were left wondering what this moment actually meant for the future of gospel music. Fans were unable to stop chatting in the hours and days following the performance. However, the behind-the-scenes information that gradually began to surface was what really fueled the flames. People wanted to know if this was a pre-arranged occasion. Did it happen on its own? Above all, what were the opinions of CeCe Winans and Shirley Caesar themselves? Those with knowledge of the occasion claim that Shirley Caesar's presence was initially planned as a solo. She was scheduled to play one of her signature songs, the kind that typically brings the house down on its own. As things progressed, however, CeCe was asked to join her, not for a practiced duet, but for something much more natural. According to insiders, the two didn't spend much time together during rehearsal. Because much of what viewers saw on stage was unscripted, it felt very real and unvarnished. Perfection and choreography weren't the point. It had to do with spirit. In a later interview, CeCe talked briefly about the experience and said that one of the biggest privileges of her career was being next to Shirley Caesar. She described how Shirley, whose music had influenced her faith and artistic abilities, had been an inspiration to her since she was a young child. CeCe acknowledged that during the performance, she was suppressing her tears, and she was overpowered by the gravity of the situation when Shirley reached out to her. According to CeCe, it was more than music. In contrast, Shirley Caesar has always been recognized for her direct and modest demeanor. It was mystery, it was love, and it was legacy. She minimized her own contribution to the performance when questioned about it, instead praising CeCe Winans for bringing gospel music into the modern era. Fans took what she allegedly said as more than just nice words. God has given her a voice for this generation, and I am just grateful to see the work continue. It resembled a ceremonial blessing from one queen of the gospel to another, a public passing of the mantle. One of the main aspects of how the performance was remembered was the idea of passing the torch. Shirley Caesar has stood for durability, strength, and heritage for many years. In contrast, CeCe Winans is a symbol of creativity, modern design, and international reach. On stage, their partnership went beyond a simple duet. It served as a link between times and a tangible reminder of the close connection between the gospel's past and present. This subject was noted by numerous cultural critics, who pointed out that the occasion had wider significance for the gospel community. This performance dispelled the notion that traditional gospel is dwindling in the face of modern worship and popular Christian music. It demonstrated that innovation and tradition don't have to clash. They can live in harmony together. What transpired had a a profoundly spiritual quality that went beyond the symbolic. Shirley reportedly whispered blessings to CeCe, but not everyone could hear them properly. According to fans near the stage, some conjectured that she was telling her that the gospel is about ministry, not celebrity, and urging her to continue moving forward in spite of criticism. The goal was important, regardless of whether we ever knew the exact words. An experienced legend giving the younger generation faith and love. It didn't end there either. Shirley, who became obviously upset after the performance, was seen being consoled by CeCe behind the scenes. Some guests remarked that Shirley appeared teary-eyed, which is unusual for the seasoned performer who has usually exuded unwavering fortitude. Fans were shown by that vulnerability that the spirit may have surprising ways of moving even legends. This night's deeper significance became evident. It has nothing to do with ego or competition. Who could hit the highest note or receive the most applause wasn't the point. It has to do with worship, solidarity, and legacy. It served as a reminder that gospel music is fundamentally not a commercial endeavor, it's a vocation. And the outcomes are remarkable when two women, such as Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans, unite under that calling. This is the most intriguing aspect, though. The events that followed prompted speculation and questions about whether this was a one-time incident or the start of something more significant for them both. When something like this occurs on stage, it's not over when the lights go off. In fact, the discussions and conjectures that follow can occasionally be just as potent as the actual performance. After Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans revealed their touching moment, that's just what transpired. Almost quickly, rumors started to spread among media outlets and fans. Was this an isolated incident, or might it portend something more significant? Calls for a combined album, tour, or at least another collaboration erupted on social media. Gospel fans worldwide were captivated by the thought of Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans pooling their talents for a long-term effort. For some, the occasion represented a natural change, a transfer of accountability. In her mid-80s, Shirley CeCe had nothing more to prove. She has preached to millions, performed for presidents, and left a legacy of music that will last beyond her lifetime. However, CeCe Winans' adventure is still in progress. As a sign that suggested, the future is in your hands now, fans started to interpret the stage moment as unquestionably bestowing CeCe her public blessing. Industry insiders contributed, bestowing CeCe her public blessing. Industry insiders contributed to the conjecture. According to some gospel commentators, this was a purposeful attempt to rekindle interest in the role of gospel in popular culture rather than merely a performance. The meeting of these two influential ladies was viewed as a message because gospel is sometimes ignored in award shows and the media. The gospel is more powerful, relevant, and alive than ever. There were even rumors of potential behind-the-scenes discussions of a memorial project, wherein CeCe Winans' present popularity and Shirley CeCe's legacy may be honored. Fans are optimistic despite the lack of confirmation, and months later, discussions about what might have happened continue. However, the responses went beyond mere conjecture. This night's greater meaning was about continuity and unity. Numerous genres of music frequently exhibit generational differences, contrasting the old and new schools, conventional as opposed to modern. Gospel had encountered similar divisions. Younger followers contend that innovation keeps contemporary gospel alive, while traditional gospel purists occasionally criticize the genre for being too modern. Shirley and CeCe, however, demonstrated on that platform that it need not be either or. Both are possible. Harmony may be the result. Because it addressed a topic beyond music, this resonated with fans. It mirrored the difficulties that many churches and religious communities are currently facing. How do you embrace modernity while clinging to tradition? In what ways do you respect the past while advancing toward the future? In response to those queries, Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans entwined their voices in adoration rather than using words. They demonstrated that the gospel did not require division. It might serve as a link between generations. That message's reverberations traveled swiftly. Choir directors encouraged their singers to adopt both traditional and contemporary gospel techniques by showing them snippets of the performance. Worship leaders used the incident as evidence that the gospel may change without becoming outdated. Even younger gospel musicians claimed that, knowing they stand on the shoulders of titans like CeCe and Win, motivated them to pursue their vocation. The responses from those who don't typically listen to gospel music at all were possibly the most illuminating. Even though they weren't gospel listeners, some people who happened to find the videos online said they were brought to tears by this performance. That is the strength of genuine moments. They dismantle barriers and connect with folks who might not otherwise attend a church or gospel performance. What does this signify for the future of evangelical music then, became the question. One thing is certain, even though none can say for sure, discussions concerning the significance, legacy, and future of gospel were rekindled by this performance. It served as a reminder that the gospel is still relevant. It is changing. Additionally, CeCe Winans and other artists are leading the charge to introduce it into new venues. However, living reminders of the beginnings can still be found in stories like Shirley CeCe. This is the part that makes fans nervous though. There may be more to come according to insiders. There are still rumors of tributes, joint ventures, and even unexpected appearances. The possibility of Shirley CeCe and CeCe Winans performing together once more is enough to keep the gospel community excited, even though no formal announcement has been made.